Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at A Stedka. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. This is episode 266, and we are coming to you on Thursday evening in the States. It is a little bit of an emergency pod-ish episode of the Depot because, well, just look around at the state of things at Tottenham Hotspur. Scott is alongside. He is at Scott G. Bird. Scott, what's going on, my friend?
A lot going on these days.
Yeah, there is a lot going on.
Iowa State's women have lost two on the bounce. They're just one loss away from an absolute spiral. Um, Tottenham have been spiraling since 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Something like that. Yeah, that sounds about
yeah,
right.
yeah, but I did very positive news. I did get a Freebird scalp shaver, which I've been no, I guess I'm just giving free publicity to Freebird. So there you go. But I gotta for those of you who are watching along, I'm cue balled up with Andrew, so double dose of a nice shiny scalp. Make sure you wear some sunglasses if you do watch us on YouTube. It will help.
Yeah, he's joined the ranks of the cue balls. We love to see it. Yeah, it's an easy way to go, man. You just little buzz every day, every other day, however you want to do it, and don't have to worry about anything. It's easy maintenance. I worry more about these days about maintaining the beard than the
No
top of my head.
doubt, no doubt. It's
That's the way
important
we're
for
gonna
us
keep it.
bald folk. Freebird, if you do want to send us free replacement blades, we'll keep mentioning your product on the podcast.
Sure, sure. Why not? I guess I'll switch brands then, because I don't think that's even. I don't even know what brand I have. But
That's
but
awesome.
if you want to send me free stuff, sure, by all means. Scott, this club right now is in a really really weird spot because you've got the manager holding coffee cups that is pissing everyone off. You've got the captain going on social media and putting the board on blast, and you've got a club who on the pitch just cannot really find any footing at this point under this manager. We're going to talk about this Bournemouth match, which I actually thought had a lot of positivity to it, weirdly enough, and they still ended up on the losing end of it. It wasn't perfect by any means, but where are you at right now, buddy?
Honestly, you know that meme where Donald Glover walks into his and Abed's apartment in Community and the entire apartment is just on fire and all he did was go grab the pizza from downstairs. That meme is maybe overused, a little aggressive at times, but in this case, it is extremely accurate for what is going on with this club. You can't look in any direction on the men's side, and thank goodness for the women's side, which we'll talk about later, right? They're
Yeah.
keeping us all afloat, but on the men's side, you can't look in any direction and not see everything up in smoke and flames at this point in time. So we'll get into it.
Um, Bournemouth, they come out in a what was kind of like a 4-4-2 in attack, which I didn't really mind with Bentancur and Paulinho because I mean, look, we can bitch and moan about this midfield all we want, but it is what it is at this point. And the fact that they tried something a little bit different, I was down with. I kind of liked it. This was, of course, also the return of Xavi Simons to the lineup, which I thought was a positive influence on the game. I thought Matisse Tell was brilliant in this match. There were a lot of positive things to pull out of it. There were other players who I thought were actively bad, including the goalkeeper, who I think continues to
Yeah.
just be not very good. But overall, I thought this was it was a really weird game. I felt like a draw would have been a fair result in the end, and of course it didn't go that way because of what happened with Semenyo at the end. And I also just the whole Semenyo of it all felt kind of gross to me, like knowing that he was going for a physical the very next day, today that is, going up to Manchester to make a transfer, and that deal was done just so that he could play matches against the likes of Spurs and Chelsea and Arsenal before he goes and transfers to Man City is a little sketchy to me. So the way that the game ended made it even more sour. But what was
Yeah.
your overall takeaway on this match? Because like I said, I thought I saw positives, but again, the bar is so low here that that's the only reason I'm saying it looked better.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Tell and Simons were good in this game. The center backs were okay, and it kind of stops there, right? Which has been the case for a while. Xavi Simons and Tell, I don't know, both have been starting to find their feet or whatever. But yeah, it's really drab from front to back. I think Bournemouth were awful. The Semenyo deal is definitely interesting. I mean, Chelsea and Arsenal. I understand City wanting him to take points off of them if at all possible, right? We are no threat to City, so I don't know why they decided that he needed
No,
to
it's
play
not
against
that
Spurs.
it's not that even that we're the threat. It's more just the ethics of that kind of
No,
arrangement
100%,
feels
no doubt
sketchy to
about it,
me.
no doubt
Of
about it.
course, we're not a threat. We're not a threat to ourselves.
Yeah,
We're only a threat to ourselves right now, I should say.
100%. Yeah, and on that note, I was having a conversation with some folks earlier today. There's no differentiation between this year and last year in terms of me going into every Premier League game fully expecting to lose. Um, I have zero confidence in us winning a game in the Premier League. Honestly, Wolves even matched us this year already, and they may very well go down as the worst team in the history of the league if numbers continue the way they are. Right. So I have no confidence, but at least last year we had you know just absolute fucking crazy ass football to watch, and we had a manager who just said hilarious shit every press conference, right? So we had a couple of things to look forward to last year. This year we just have the most boring football you've ever seen, and then like your average high school algebra teacher at press conferences, right? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Well, and I do think that
it
is a big
sucks.
factor of why we're feeling the way we are about Thomas Frank in these recent weeks and months because look, I know that Ange wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but at least he was interesting. Thomas Frank
Yeah,
isn't even interesting at this point. He doesn't offer up a quote. He honestly is putting his foot in his mouth more than anything. And we'll come on to the cup. I know everybody wants to talk about the cup. I have my own thoughts about the cup, but but I do think that that is a factor for why we're feeling a certain way about Thomas Frank at this point.
yeah, he offers absolutely nothing. And look, I think Thomas Frank is a great tactician. Seems like a nice guy. I think he is going to be an expert at keeping a team in the Premier League that could very well not be in the Premier League, right? And he'll do that for a long time, and he'll get accolades for it, and then end up at Spurs, right? But he we may have found that Thomas Frank has a level, and he was there with Brentford, and again did a wonderful job. But we've talked about it before. At the level Spurs aspire to be at, you can't play reactive football. And I do recognize to anyone who listens regularly, there was a point in time where I said it's nice to have some flexibility and a tactician who wants to change our approach based on what's required, right? But we live and learn. And it's very evident to me that reactive football is not going to be good enough. And again, that's coming off the back of Ange sticking to his guns last year and throwing the league, etc., whatever it was. So I understand why myself and other fans felt that it was a refreshing change to someone like Thomas Frank, but it's just clearly not working. And I know you guys probably talked about it on Sunday. I wasn't able to make the show, but I'm so ready for Thomas Frank to be sacked. I'm just waiting for that news, and it's been a while since I felt that way.
It's really weird that we've all gone to this kind of place where I mean the only people at this point who I see or read or hear about that are fine with Thomas Frank sticking around are those who just think that we have been chopping and changing the manager too often
Yeah,
since the sacking of Pochettino, which yes, I agree with, but at the same time, this is something that is just clearly not working.
hmm
And I, I can't remember a time in recent memory where everyone was just so collectively out on a guy.
yeah,
And it hasn't happened as of yet, as we're recording this, of course, as I mentioned, Thursday evening. But it feels inevitable at this point that I don't think he's making it through the rest of this season. I think that would be an upset at this point.
yeah. I'd be surprised
Let's
if
talk
he
about the cup
survived
for a second
January.
because that the other part of this is the I don't want to say lack of awareness because look, Thomas Frank will, he's forgotten more about football than you and I will ever know. I'm sure he's a Premier League manager, but there does seem to be a real lack of disillusion with what it means to be the manager of this club in this moment right now. And I get that the cup was a big viral moment, and it's probably something that you should be a little bit more aware of. Deep down, do I really truly care that he was holding a cup with an Arsenal logo on it? Not really, but it's really bad optics. And I think that the big problem is with this guy right now is that not only is the football god awful and not getting any better and not showing signs that it can get any better, but his optics are just terrible. He, like I said, he's boring in press conferences. He says things that he probably shouldn't. He praises other teams, and then to boot, he's holding a cup with our crosstown rival on the side of it. Which, how does that even happen? You're not at their stadium. It's a mind blowing thing to have happened. Honestly, when I saw it at first, because I watched the game on Wednesday on delay, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was some kind of AI or a bit, and then I realized it was real, and it took me aback. I was like, wait, how did this even happen?
Honestly, I will say this, like you, I don't really care. Like, whatever. He was holding a cup. But this, you hit the nail on the head when you said he's a little bit disillusioned as to what it means to be the manager of this club. Because, in my opinion, there is one other rivalry in the world. So I shouldn't say that in Europe, because I think there's one in South America that's probably the biggest rivalry in the world when I talk about River Plate and Boca Juniors, right? But in Europe, I think you have Inter Milan and AC Milan, and then you have Spurs Arsenal, and they're like 1A and 1B. You could probably say Spurs and Arsenal is even bigger, right? But those are the two biggest rivalries in Europe, without a doubt. You've got Barcelona, Real Madrid, which is basically just like two billionaires' kids, like kind of throwing food at each other, right? Um, and then
Sure.
you've got these types of rivalries where you're in the same city, you're miles away from each other, and there's like pure hatred involved, right? It is more than just football, and he clearly doesn't understand that, and that's one thing that Spurs fans will always demand of their manager is that they despise Arsenal as much as we do, right? Like Pochettino came out and said, I would never manage Arsenal, right? There's two teams in the world I'll never manage. It's Arsenal and Barcelona because of my ties to Espanyol. That will never change. He said I would move to a farm and become a farmer before I'd manage Arsenal, right? And Thomas Frank again is just not connecting the dots here. So yeah, it's silly. It's a cup. Somebody probably handed him that cup and said, "Oh, this is hilarious," and he didn't realize it, or maybe he picked it up himself. I don't know, right? We all know, and this probably ties into so much of the discontent, but we all know how as Spurs fans were just absolutely battered by the media, Spursy, rival fans, whatever it is, right? It's like as Tottenham fans, we catch a lot of blows, and they're not always strays, right? But we catch a lot of blows, and this is just another blow because the rest of the world is going to fucking love the fact that Tottenham's manager was holding an Arsenal Cup, and I think that's the biggest problem with all of this.
Yeah, I was definitely way too online in the last probably 36 hours and saw it all. I saw all the
Yeah,
memes, and
yeah,
none of them were really funny, but they all were kind of just annoying. It's not a fun time right now. I shifting gears to let's shift gears to the well before we shift gears to the Cudi Romero of it all, because I think that's honestly a bigger more important story, because I think Cudi Romero is going to be here for longer than Thomas Frank is. I do want to mention just the penalty shout for Van de Ven. Personally, I thought it was the right decision in the end.
yeah,
I thought it was a little bit divey. I know that when Todd hears this, he's gonna want to rant and rave, and if he's able to join the pod at the weekend, I'll let him, because that's what I love to do. But I just thought he was looking for it. And that was a brilliant run down the pitch. We've seen him do it a number of
yeah.
times, and I thought he was gonna come through once again. But I just thought it was the right decision. And then I also think it's absolutely absurd that we've now seen João Palhinha score two just wonder goals on bicycle kicks. I don't know how that happened. I will be completely honest with you. When that goal went in, my only reaction was to cackle in laughter. Like
Same.
I uncontrollably laughed for about 5 to 10 seconds.
Same, dude. I literally laughed out loud. I said that, honestly, that's really funny that we score absolute bangers like that when it just doesn't matter. Good. Like, congrats, Japolini, sick goal. That's about all you get out of that for me. Credit to him for being acrobatic, right? And having good hand-foot coordination or foot-eye coordination is what I meant to say, right? So credit to Japolini. But yeah, that's about all I can say. Um, Cootie, or sorry, Van de Ven on the other hand, amazing run. I agree with you. I don't think that it's like a dive per se, right? Like I don't think he's like feigning contact, but I think all that is a coming together of players. He feels the contact and goes down, right? So there is contact,
Right.
but that is just the physical game of soccer, right? There's no foul there, in my opinion.
And he's
Like
coming in there so fast that it's totally understandable if he would have lost his
100%.
footing.
100%. Like if that happens at midfield, no one is saying that's a fucking foul, like free kick Spurs, blah blah blah. That's just soccer. So I think it was the right call as well. And honestly, let's be real, people. We don't fucking deserve anything. Like sure, give us a penalty. Like let's learn how to create chances before we start begging for penalties. I'm sure everybody saw the stat. It's flying around. We have produced the least amount of through balls into the final third of anyone in the league. Like let's figure out how to do that before we start begging and whining for penalties, not only as fans but as players as well.
Well, and I pointed out in our group chat earlier today, I think it was the only reason that Van de Ven goes on those runs is, well, I'll give you it. There are a couple of reasons. One, he's capable of it because
Yeah,
he's so damn talented and so
yeah,
fast and can
yeah.
make those runs. But the reason he's doing it so often and we're seeing it so often from the center back spot is one, we're relying on our defenders, i.e. Palhinha scoring one. Kuti and Van de Ven have both been on the score sheet plenty this season.
Hmm.
Weirdly enough, Pedro Porro hasn't, but that's another story.
Yeah,
Um, Getting back to Van de Ven, though, the reason he does this is because he has to. Like you said, let's learn to build out from the back like we're trying to do and actually produce offensive chances. When we can't do that, he's going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and do it himself. And that's exactly what he's been doing. And he almost did it again. But I just thought, yeah, that probably was a penalty. The other
yeah,
big thing before we talk about Cody is the injuries that come out of this game because we already learned from the weekend that Mohamed Kudus's injury is feared to be a lengthy one. We're talking maybe April before we see Mohamed Kudus back on the pitch, which is quite obviously very, very bad for where this team is right now. That is a quad injury, a quad tendon injury. So expected to be out at least through the March international break. The injuries picked up in the Bournemouth match. Rodrigo Bentangor went down with a hamstring injury, and they are calling it, quote, a bigger one, which is not good either because Bentangor has, look, for all the faults we have with Rodrigo Bentangor, he's been pretty consistent in the midfield and playing a lot of minutes. So
yeah.
somebody's going to have to fill those minutes at this point, which is not great. And then Lucas Bergvall also left this match with a thigh injury of some kind. It looked like I thought this was a weird one. They didn't really have much of an update on it, but you and I were talking before we started recording, remembering that he missed a match last week and then was expected to miss another one at the weekend against Sunderland, but came off the bench. So, or excuse me, that was the Brentford match, I think. Maybe I'm mixing those up, but regardless, it
Yeah,
looked like it could have even potentially been a re-injury of something. So we'll
yeah.
have to wait on that one. But the injuries are just piling up at this point, and for it to be happening in the month of January feels a little bit cruel because you can go get these players, but how aggressive do you want to be in a market like this and in replacing injured players who will eventually make their way back? It's a really, really tough balance to strike right now.
Yeah, it's something we've been dealing with for a while, but kudos, kudos is obviously a huge miss. Be nice to have a guy like Brendan Johnson around at this point in time,
Wow,
right?
wouldn't it?
It's gonna be interesting as to what happens. Obviously, Matthias Tell is gonna get a lot of playing time, and I'm good with that, right? I think at at this point, like, yeah, I'll veer off topic for just a second, but there's a point, and I'll bring us back, right? I think at this point in time, very similar to an American sports season where you're kind of fucked, and you just start preparing for the next season, right? And we have Europe, and we've got the FA Cup, but when I'm talking Premier League, All I'm saying is I don't mind seeing guys like Matthias Tell getting a lot of minutes and just playing, right? And getting these guys going. There's a lot of talk about, oh, let's bring Tyrese Hall back because we want to get him some minutes. Like Matthias Tell's sitting right there. So just play the dude. Let's go, right? It is what it is. Kudos a huge miss, but guys can use opportunities like this to grab the bull by the horns and rock and roll. So we'll see. But obviously a huge miss, and I don't think that I know it's January right into that point. I don't suspect that we can go out and get anybody that's an adequate replacement because honestly, and this isn't me like bantering my own club. I'm dead serious. I just don't think anyone who is up to that level is interested in coming to Spurs right now at this point in time, right? The manager is on the hot seat. Spurs are awful. We can't produce anything as far as any offense or goal scoring opportunities, right? We're just really struggling right now, and I don't think that anyone would have any interest in coming to Spurs unless it's like, a Yan Diomande type who's 19 years old and is kind of on the cusp of that next move out of Germany. He's tearing it up right now in AFCON. Honestly, probably one of the players of the tournament for the Ivory Coast, but it's that type of profile that we're going to be able to attract right now, and none of that ticks the needle enough in the right now immediate moment, right, for it to matter. So it's going to be tough.
There are a lot of transfer rumors swirling and loan recalls happening. We'll get into some more of that on the weekend. I want to touch on the Cootie stuff with you, man, because this was I hate to use the word bombshell because it wasn't really that. It was just another thing, kind of like the cup from fallout from this game that took me by surprise. But Cootie took to Instagram and kind of just went for it, calling out the board, calling out. I guess it's the board. I don't really know exactly who he's calling out here. He just says, you know, people only show up when things are going well to tell a few lies. And he, of course, edited this. This is the original version that you're seeing on the screen if you're watching us on youtube.com/Tottenham Depot. But, takes responsibility and says it should be other people coming out to speak, but they don't. It's been happening for several years now. This is pretty blunt and forward, and obviously it was addressed by Thomas Frank in his pre-match press conference on Thursday, where he actually referred to it as a mistake, which I know is generating a lot of buzz and word. Um,
Cootie's like,
he
nah,
he
bro, that
also
was not a
informed
fucking mistake.
right. He also informed the media that Romero is in fact still the club's captain, and was not fined for this post, even though as I said, it was edited to remove a reference to people telling lies. So I don't know if that is enough of a fine or what we're declaring here. Um, but this really lit up social media and obviously the headlines. What do you have to say for what the captain has to say?
I mean, that's absolutely dumping a oil drum full of gasoline onto a fire, right? Is what he did. The fire that is Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. Um, Nico Cantor, who folks may know, he's kind of like the staple pundit for the Glasgow Network and for CBS Sports, right? He's the son of Andres Cantor, the famed Argentine announcer, right? But anyways, Nico said that as he read this, he was translating into Argentine Spanish as he was reading, and he was like, in Argentine Spanish, that is fucking aggressive and just very, very direct and very angry, right? If it were to be translated. So I think Cootie is angry. Honestly, I'm glad somebody is stepping up and saying something like this because my interpretation, which is speculation, I'll never know if this is correct, right? But I believe that he's making reference to all of like the kumbaya, honky dory, everything's lovely that came out this summer with Vinay and Johan Long and all these videos that the club started pumping out. And at the time we were like, this is kind of nice. We're seeing some transparency from the club, right? But I think Cootie was referencing that. And when things are good, we just won a European trophy. Let's get on the camera and say some shit, right? And that's not happening when the chips are down. And He's probably also just a little bit aggrieved that the club probably isn't as ambitious as some certain players would like, and there may be a little bit of a of an incoming bomba from Van de Ven, right? I'll keep it at that, right? Because nothing's official at that point at this point in time. But rumors are that Van de Ven's also not happy with the situation at the club, right? And frankly, those are Van
Well,
de
that's the
Ven
thing,
are
though. Who could be? How could
100%,
any of these players be happy?
no question. But I think what's really important is, in my opinion, Van de Ven and Romero are the two guys who really have the ability to actually criticize the club, right? Because look, as much as Thomas Frank is really struggling, our squad is pretty average. Like honestly, it I don't think that our squad on paper is better than anybody from like Everton North if you look at the table, right? I think like we probably are the ninth to 12th best team in the league on paper when you look at our squad. It's very average, right? And so it's not all on Frank, but my point there is that I think Cootie and Van de Ven are really the only two guys that come to mind that I think are good enough to step up and say, this is fucking awful. Like, I need my club to be better because I just think it's a little bit tone deaf from anybody else right now.
Uh, I couldn't agree more. And I also think that while I'm glad somebody's angry, at the same time, I don't really know what this does. I mean, you kind of said it. It throws an oil drum on an already burning fire.
Hmm.
That's why I'm a little bit skeptical of what this changes, if anything. I think it really just ignites something, and well, I almost hope it ignites something to some
Yeah.
extent. I get what you're saying about the transparency stuff. I think the weirdest part of all of that is what has or has not been said over the last few weeks, especially regarding Fabio Paratici, who has been rumored to
Yeah.
be going to Fiorentina, but the club's insisting that he's still working for the club, and I guess that's going to happen through the month of January as he continues to make deals with both clubs. It's all very strange, and I don't know if this is a direct reference to that kind of topsy turviness
Maybe.
with the football direction. Um, but I do know that it's got to change quickly because it, the apathy is way worse than being bad. If this club was bad, it would be one thing. And I think last year, to the point you made earlier, at least there was something to hang on to. There were a few things to
Yeah.
hang on to. There was a cup run. There was a manager who was still doing his thing and like being blunt about what he's doing. Thomas Frank seems to be hiding behind a lot of stuff.
For
And
sure.
and and I'm not exactly sure what it is. And I don't know, it's super frustrating to watch and to have to deal with. I mean literally watching this match yesterday, I was not quite looking forward to it. Now I was entertained. I mean, it was an entertaining watch and not a good result, but you want to look forward to the matches, and they're not. No one's able to do that right now with the way that they look on the pitch. And if it's going to be this ugly off the pitch, that's when the apathy starts to set in, and I think that's really dangerous.
Yeah. Honestly, I haven't, and this is maybe more of a me problem, but the, the only two times that I've been emotionally tied to results in as long as I can remember are the Europa League final and the League Cup final in probably 2021, where Mourinho was sacked a week prior to the match or whatever it was, right? And I I've probably said this before, but I remember at full time of that match, I remember saying in our group chat, this hurts so bad because it's going to get really rough from here on out. And I would have really liked a trophy to see us off into the sunset of the shit storm that's to come, right? Um, and yeah, so anyways, apathy has definitely been part of my Spurs fandom for some time. If it weren't for you guys all just being awesome friends of mine, would I even be here to talk Spurs? I don't know. That's maybe a question for me to ponder in my free time. But it's really bad and things have got to change. So to tie it all back to what we're actually talking about, I credit our captain for coming out and saying something because someone has to. And why not our captain, right?
I'll be really interested to see how it all kind of plays out. As you mentioned, like at a certain point, if you're not getting what you want, it's way easier for the players to say I don't want to be here anymore and get
100%.
themselves moved, especially
Yep.
the players that are really talented like Cody Romero or Mickey Van de Ven.
The two players we
And
have that are really
honestly,
talented.
the two players who would probably play for most, if not every other Premier League team, yes,
Yeah.
who
Poor
are
guys.
also our
Poor
offensive
guy.
attack. It's
They just do
there's
it all.
there's a there's a lot. They literally are carrying everything
Uh,
on their
Imagine the
backs. It is
conversations
not
between
real.
those two, man. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in a close conversation between Romero and Van Ven right now.
Well, and listen, if it doesn't work out with the manager long term, at least Ryan Mason's available again, sacked by West Brom this week. So that's a shame that didn't work out for him because it really was going well at first for him at West Brom.
Yeah. Oh man,
But you know,
I feel for
Lord knows he'll probably make his way back.
could Martin Ho
Who
just
knows?
potentially manage both teams? Is that something he'd be
You
interested
know,
in?
it's not something I had thought about. He does seem to have his hands full with a bunch of new players, and I'm glad that you mentioned it because I did want to talk to you about the window that Spurs Women have had so
Yeah.
far. It's five new signings for the month of January, including the newest one, who we have not yet talked about on the podcast, but I don't know if you've had much of a say on any of these new signings. But Julie Blackstad is the newest signing, a 24-year-old Norwegian fullback, left-sided midfielder type who comes over from Hammarby on a free deal. She used to play for Manchester City. Had made like I think it was like 10 to 15 appearances for them a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
but is a an attacking player from the back. Had probably her best season last year while playing in Sweden. 15 goals and 6 assists in 26 matches, including 3 goals in the Champions League. I, when you start to hear those kinds of signings coming into this club, you start to realize, oh, they are starting to find players who are Champions League quality because they're
For sure.
actually going to start to push for a Champions League spot, and that's the thing that excites me. But I want to turn it over to you because we saw Gopset come in December. This newest signing, Blackstead, we've had Micah Hamano come in on loan from Chelsea, which I think is a really big deal. Matilda Nilden, who comes in, as well as Hannah Vick. And I'm basically just pumped to see this team come back this weekend and get rolling again for 2026 because there are new signings that have come in, and I think many of them, if not all of them, will be able to hit the ground running to some extent.
100%. Uh, the first thing I'll say is I do believe that Vinay Venkatesham has a huge part to do with this. I mean, he came in and said, we're gonna get the women's team rolling. Like that's one of my main priorities. And I think he probably doesn't have people in his way. Fabio Paratici and Johan Longa, are, right? And I think Vinay can just do his thing. And I think he's well connected in the world of women's football. I think he's ambitious. He's eager. Um, And it all comes back to the man we just talked about, Martin Ho, right? That manager has done such a good job and has shown the board and the ownership group that he deserves everything that they're able to do for him, right? So I'm stoked on the men's side. If you're 19 years old and play in a super low European league, we'll have you. On the women's side,
Or in
if
South
you're
America for that matter.
whatever it is, if you're 19 and average, Spurs will definitely buy you, right? On the men's side. Now, on the women's side, if you are classed, have played in the Champions League, are Scandinavian, and maybe on a free, Spurs will have you, right? So I like the latter of those two things. But again, all jokes aside, Martin Ho deserves much more investment than anything happening on the men's side right now, and I'm really glad. Again, the numbers are never going to be comparable, right? And that's a much more grandiose problem and conversation to have, right? But my point is, I'm really glad to see that we're investing in the team that's rolling with a really solid manager, great cohesion, and all the pieces in place to really kick on with some key signings. So, like you, I'm really stoked to see what all of these girls can do to a team that's already humming and firing on all cylinders.
It's going to be interesting to see where they all fit in and how the pieces fit, but I have every confidence. Like you said, Martin Ho has come in and really just gotten this team to play that brand of football that honestly that they started to play a little bit of under Robert Villaham at the start. So I am hoping that this will last, but this even is a step above that for sure, and we've
Oh
definitely
yeah.
seen that so far this season. Part of the reason that these signings are so notable and so impactful, obviously, Vic is a fullback who can kind of play on either side. Blackstad coming in is a what looks like a left-sided fullback to hopefully give Amanda Nilden a break. But all of this kind of leads to the bigger news of the week, and that is that Ash Neville is out. The 32-year-old has been sold to Leicester City. As we mentioned on the last pod that this was rumored to be happening, and it was like a very strong link, and it did indeed come to pass this week. And it's a wild, an end of an era, really,
Hmm.
for a player who helped this club gain promotion, join them way back when they had just joined the women's championship,
Yeah.
WSL2, whatever they're calling it now. But 191 appearances for the club, just an absolute club legend, and the club I thought did a really nice job on the social media with the tributes. We saw the letter that Bethany England wrote and read, and that Ash Neville was a part of in reading as well. And there were quotes from Martin Ho as well. It feels abrupt, but it's a lovely send off for a player who's meant so much for this club.
Yeah, I mean, I think she is the the greatest name to ever don the badge on the women's side when you talk about the modern era, right? No one has done more for the club. Obviously a huge bummer to see her go, but I will also say as the club ventures into this brave new world and levels up, like those things are going to happen too, right? And it's part of football. You know, I think as clubs progress, you just always have to get used to saying goodbye to fan favorites and people that you've grown really attached to as players like Ash Neville. And I think it's a good move for Ash Neville too. I think Spurs are again investing in the future at the fullback position, right? And I would expect that her minutes were going to continue to diminish as that happened, right? And I think Leicester will offer her not only more playing time, but I think she's going to be able to step into Leicester as a real leader, right? And you know, bring fresh perspective, but also just give herself a career refresher because being at the same club for as long as she has, it's very rare in this game, right? And we're all rejuvenated by change. We're all rejuvenated by new challenges and new roads in front of us, and that's what she's getting out of this too. Unless they're getting a fantastic person and a fantastic right back, so I think it's a win-win-win.
And wouldn't you have it that the next two opponents for Spurs women is indeed Leicester City? They'll meet them in the WSL this Sunday, and then in the FA Cup the following week. So
That's
two
awesome. She'll
straight
get a great
home
send off.
matches. Yeah, so she will get kind of play already on the other side now, but
Yeah,
Spurs fans will get to see her play against Spurs the next two matches, which is interesting,
it's
and
crazy.
it will be a nice opportunity. And I did see the news too today that starting in the new year, Spurs women fans will be able to enjoy alcohol while watching the pitch, which is
Oh,
a different thing in England. So that's a nice
wow,
little added
interesting.
bonus for them. So,
Yeah, I forgot you can't
but
take
yeah, they're
beer into
back
the
this weekend.
stands.
Yeah, but I just saw they got it approved for games, I guess, there at Brisbane Road.
Huh?
So that's back this weekend, and then of course the men are back this weekend as well in the FA Cup against Aston Villa, which we will cover as well. The games are not going to stop, my friend. They're just going to keep coming. That's why we're throwing an extra pod in here for you all this week. Before we get out of here, a solemn farewell to Martin Chivers, a club legend who
Mm.
passed away this week at the age of 80, the club's fourth all-time leading goal scorer, one goal ahead of Sung Hyun Min. Uh, just an absolute legend. Of course, was is missed down the south. He was a Southampton player as well. Is missed on the South Coast as well. They were talking about that this week, and I saw the players wearing the black armbands. So safe home, Martin Chivers, as we head out this week on the depot here. That's going to do it. We will talk to you again. We're going to try and do another one of these on the weekend because that's just what we do. And the games that are played, we want to talk about them. And then again, this things feel a little precarious right now. So we wanted to get one out and let the listeners have at it. So be sure to check out the episodes on the YouTube page, youtube.com/Tottenham Depot. Leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice as well. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. You can follow Scott at Scott G. Bird. You can follow me at Ace Dedka. We'll talk to you this weekend. This has been the Tottenham Depot podcast. As always, come on, you Spurs.